Hi, this is Liz Butler. I am the organizing director for Friends of the Earth, and thank you so much for joining the call tonight. Today marks the first day of August recess, and it's one of our most critical opportunities to influence Congress, which is why we wanted to pull you guys together tonight and do a quick conversation about recess, what it is, why it's important, and then talk a little bit about this idea of a rapid response team, what we'll be doing, and then very specifically want to spend a little bit of time kind of talking people through a tactic called bird dogging. But we're going to spend the bulk of the time on this call in breakout groups led by the organizer that works with your state so that we can brainstorm the politics of your region and how to get in touch with your members of Congress. So with that, I'm going to dive right in. Like I said, we're going to do a little bit of discussion about this political moment, then a little bit of discussion about getting in touch with members of Congress and bird dogging, and then we're going to move you into a collaborative conversation with either Liz K, as opposed to me, Jenny, or Gail to talk about the unique circumstances in your region. I want to start by talking about what's going on politically and why this recess in particular is so important. You know, all of us have been watching the chaos around a couple of issues. You probably know that 8 months ago, Republicans were rallying people around the idea of overturning the Affordable Care Act that's often called Obamacare, and trying to do that super quickly. It was supposed to be the first thing that Trump did in office. In fact, a couple of times Trump said he was going to be able to do it on day one. So trying to tell people that by like January 20th he would be able to overturn the Affordable Care Act. But ultimately it didn't happen, and it was defeated just last week because of massive grassroots organizing in an effort to stop Trump care. In addition to getting the votes it needed, it was also an effort to educate the American public on exactly what the Affordable Care Act was and what were the components of it that were really at risk and how it could affect them and their family. Over months of rallies, media, social media campaigns, and more, citizens were able to educate more the general public around the advantages of the Affordable Care Act. In fact, polling from just after the election versus now shows that the approval for the Affordable Care Act from the public has gone up massively in the last 8 months. Whereas the non-existent health care plan by Trump and the Republicans should have been a shoo-in, grassroots organizing really saved the Affordable Care Act and Congress in the court of public opinion. Now, Congress is saying they're going to shift their focus from health care to the budget, and we want to build on the momentum of the healthcare victory by ensuring that the budget reflects our values, meaning that where the resources in the U.S. are spent are actually driven by values to protect the environment, protect communities. And on a very real level, on an environmental lens, that means stopping Trump and the Republicans' attempts to cut the Environmental Protection Agency's funding by 30%. Traditionally, there's kind of a large process that the budget goes through to get approval that includes a long series of votes in Congress. It normally starts in the spring and doesn't end until October. But that's really not how it's gone in the last couple of years. What Congress actually does now is sort of pass stopgap budgets with less input just to keep the lights on. Now, Trump and the Republicans are using the budget process in order to gut environmental protections and social safety programs by not funding them. Even if we have something on paper that is law, if there is no funding for enforcing the law, it's basically toothless. So in lieu of going through a normal legislative process to overturn or rewrite a law, what they're doing is behind closed doors, really trying to defund them. So instead of getting rid of environmental protections by passing bills to overturn them or doing drastic efforts like dismantling the Environmental Protection Agency, which they know they would not be able to pass because there would be public outrage at the idea that our environmental protections are just not being enforced and don't even have an agency to enforce them. What they're trying to do right now is make massive cuts to the funding to gut enforcement of environmental protection without going through a normal process in Congress to overturn them by just taking away the resources. Through this very shady process, Trump's budget would basically fundamentally alter the social safety net of this country and its environmental protections. Imagine if we went back to a day that, a local polluter could just dump pollutants into a stream and not be worried that they're going to be held accountable by the Environmental Protection Agency, where they could just poison our air and poison our water, and nobody in the community would have anywhere to go to make them stop. What we really want to make sure is in this budget process that more members of Congress are expressing extreme concern over the values that this budget implies that we have as a society, and to make it very clear that they're not going to go along with it because they know that they would be held accountable back in their community. Now, it's very clear in the past few months that without a ton of public pressure, there is a set of people in Congress, in the House, in the Senate, mainly the Republicans, who are willing to give Trump whatever he asks for. And arguably, there's a number of Democrats who could be doing more to stop it, standing up stronger, saying there's no way that they're going to let this move forward. That's why pressuring members of Congress at a grassroots level is one of the most effective ways to make sure that they understand that they just can't let Trump get away with this absurd budget, and that we don't share the values that it implies, that we're not standing for the idea of cutting the environmental protections in the Environmental Protection Agency to turn around and give huge tax cuts to the wealthy. That's not okay as a society, that we actually stand behind the idea of clean streams and environmental protections and starting to really address climate change. But that's why we're really launching our rapid response team, to make sure that while they're home for August recess, they're home for a whole month, that people in Congress are met with people in their district saying, we demand that you reject Trump's budget and that you keep our environmental protections and safeguards and social safety net intact. That means showing up wherever they are. There's a tactic called bird dogging, which basically means showing up on people's doorstep, that we're going to be training you on tonight, that both influences the members of Congress, but it also influences other people in your community so that they know a little bit more of what's going on and start to think about what they care about environmental protections. Many people don't even know that they're at risk right now. But before we dive into how to bird dog your member of Congress, I'm going to have Gail talk a little bit about what does it mean to be part of our rapid response team, what people will be doing, what you can expect from support from Friends of the Earth. Gail?
Thanks, Liz. So hello, everyone. I'm Gail, and I am one of the organizers with Friends of the Earth. I'm based in California, and so I work with folks in the West Coast and the Mountain States. Now, as Liz mentioned, this August recess is our opportunity to use the momentum of the healthcare victory to ensure that the budget keeps our environment protected and our communities healthy. And we know that just like the April recess, a lot of the other amazing progressive groups that we work with will be organizing people and getting them to hit the streets en masse. And we're all working together, uniting under the same hashtags on social media. And these groups are counting on groups like us, groups like Friends of the Earth, to turn people out to talk about the environment. Now, because this recess is the longest of the year, we want to take full advantage of this opportunity to not just keep the pressure on Congress, but to really turn the heat up. And the way our rapid response team will do that is to get their attention as much as possible. So we've got 3 key components to rapid response. The first is showing up wherever your member of Congress is as often as possible. Again, as Liz mentioned, this is called bird dogging. The second key component is calling Congress out daily on social media. And then the third piece is responding to whatever issues come up during the recess. So I want to go into each of these in a little bit more detail. So the first is showing up. Our members of Congress are usually in D.C., which means that the best way we can reach them is by calling, emailing, or sending a letter. But the recess is our opportunity to get some face time with them, to look them in the eyes and tell them our stories and talk to them about why the environment, the EPA, and healthy communities matter to us. And these in-person interactions are the most important thing we can be doing this recess. They'll be busy though, so we've got to be persistent to make them hear what we've got to say. That means don't just ask a question during a town hall. We should try to capture the moment on camera and share it on social media so that everyone in our network can see what Congress is saying. Don't just write a letter. We should show up to their fundraising events in droves to demand that they protect the EPA. And don't just speak up just once. We should have you and your friends and even your family members and your neighbors be at every public event we can get to. That includes ribbon cuttings, speeches, county fairs, and everything else you can think of. So even just showing up at their offices when we know they'll be working there and tabling for a few hours can be effective. And if you're members of Congress this recess play hooky instead of meeting with their constituents, then we need to make sure the community knows it. The second piece is social media. So in addition to pressuring Congress in person, we'll make sure our peers know about this and know what's going on by posting on social media daily. There were tons of really great videos taken of constituents holding their member of Congress accountable during the April recess that went viral on social media. And this exponentially amplified pressure that we were putting on Congress and through this media attention. So I don't know if y'all remember this, but one thing that went viral was the video of the 10-year-old girl in Utah asking Representative Chaffetz what he would do to protect our air and our water. So our rapid response team will post daily to Facebook and or Twitter and tag your members of Congress, as well as use the hashtags Resistance Recess or August Recess to do the same thing, so to post videos of you attending public events, as well as to post personal content. So each week, we'll have a theme that you can use to post. The point here is to tag your member of Congress and post often. So for example, the first week of the recess, we'll ask you to post each day with a reason why you care about the environment. And the second week, we'll ask you to post daily with a picture or a sentence about one of the beautiful places nearby that you want the EPA to be able to protect. And by sharing these personal stories daily, you'll be able to send in a constant reminder to your members of Congress that you want them to stand up to Trump and protect the EPA. And then the third piece is responding to issues. So I'll be blunt, we know that some members of Congress will say something absurd, insensitive, or stupid this recess. And we know that some members of Congress, alternatively, will be back home leading the conversation about climate change and advocating for stronger environmental protection. Whichever category your members of Congress fall under, we want you to be able to respond. So you should go to whatever rally or protest happens in response to their actions and take pictures and videos. Then post these pictures and videos online and share them with the rest of the rapid response team so that we can all share them on Facebook and Twitter as well. So how will you all communicate with each other? First off, we've created a rapid response team Facebook page that we'll send out with the toolkit tomorrow. You should all join that so that you can post photos of what you're doing and share those with one another. We'll also add everyone who wants to join the rapid response team to an email list where I'll send daily updates on what's happening across the country and what can and should be shared on Facebook and Twitter. So these are the three main components of rapid response this August recess. And now I want to pass it over to Jenny so that she can talk to you all about some key tips for bird dogging your members of Congress.
Thanks, Gail. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny, and I am our Northeast organizer. I work with folks in the Northeast states. So I'm going to talk to you about what exactly is bird dogging, how do we do it. So hopefully by now you know what it is. But anyway, so I'll go into that. So like we said, the most important component of rapid response is showing up where your senators and members of Congress are as often as possible. So that simply is what we call bird dogging. You might have heard about how during the fight to block the Keystone XL pipeline, anywhere Obama and Hillary Clinton went, there were people holding signs that said, "Stop Keystone." And they couldn't go to pretty much any public event without seeing someone with a sign. And this is actually a huge part of what eventually led to them changing their mind about Keystone and halting the project. So that's an example of bird dogging. It's just when you follow your decision maker wherever they go and confront them about their ask. So it's a funny name, but it's a pretty simple, straightforward tactic. So my 2 tips for you to successfully bird dog your members of Congress this August are, 1, prepare signs, and 2, do your best to get your question answered. So it's as simple as that. And to go a little more into what I mean by that, these 2 tips, first, preparing signs. Bringing good signs is key to getting your message across. Not everyone who's attending the event that you're bird dogging will hear you ask your question to your member. So you should try to bring whatever you can to make your message visible, and to just get what you're trying to ask your member across, not just to them, but to the rest of the people in the audience. So you can bring props such as puppets, signs, or even banners, that have the message that you're asking your member of Congress. And make sure that your message is written clearly on them. An example would be, stand up to Trump and protect the EPA. That would be a great message to put up on a sign. If you have good signs with you, then everyone will know why you're there, regardless if you get to actually ask your question, or regardless if you get to go into the event or you just have to stand outside. That way everyone will know, what you care about and what you're trying to get across to your congressperson. Second, getting your question answered. When you catch an elected representative off guard, they're more likely to answer the questions honestly. That being said, you won't always get to talk to them directly. Sometimes you won't get to talk to them before they enter the event. And in most cases, maybe you won't be able to enter the event. Maybe it's a fundraiser and you'll have to pay like hundreds of dollars to get into the fundraiser. But for the times you are able to get into the event, or you're able to talk to your member, it's important to get them to answer your question. You might have to ask it more than once for them to actually respond to you, but you have to keep asking your question until they do. And it's also worth noting, a lot of public events you will go to, they might not have a formal Q&A section. So you have to just be creative and persistent, and your opportunity to ask will most likely come from you arriving early to the event, or standing near the entrance and catching your members' attention, on their way into the event. But no matter how you get your question out, asking until you get an answer, is the most important part. And again, you might have to ask it multiple ways, through different people, and it's just about being pleasantly persistent. So to go through a few more, steps on how to do effective bird dogging. Remember, bird dogging is fun and it's simple. And here are, basically just 4 steps to think about when you're doing bird dogging. So 1 is figure out the logistics. 2, recruit people to join you. 3, prepare your materials. And 4, ask your question. So the first thing, figure out logistics. You'll need to figure out a date, time, and location, which mostly means you'll need to figure out what your member's calendar is. You can get your members' local office numbers by going to house.gov and senate.gov. Then you should ask to be connected with whoever manages your members' schedule in district. They can tell you if a town hall is planned, what public events are on the calendar. If your member isn't holding a public forum, look for fundraisers or appearances at events held by other community groups like the Chamber of Commerce or the Rotary Club in your area. You can also find out what your member has planned by subscribing yourself to their online newsletter. You can do that from their website, or you can also follow them on social media. They announce events a lot now on their Twitter accounts and Facebook pages. And you can find their Facebook and Twitter handles on their web pages. 2, recruit people to join you. You can invite as many people as you want. The more people, the louder your message. However, you really don't need more than 1 or 2 people to make an impact. Just keep that in mind. Even just one person, yourself, asking a pointed question and holding a relevant sign can get the attention of your member of Congress. But if you want to bring people with you, recruitment is very simple. It just comes down to asking people to join you. You can start by making a list of folks in your network. Think about the low-hanging fruit, like your neighbors, your friends, your family members. Who can you just, be like, hey, you want to come to this with me? Also, you could think about local groups that you might be able to partner with. There's a lot of other groups that are doing recess events right now. And you should definitely ask people to join you personally using email, text, calling people, asking the next time you see someone, maybe in the grocery store or, walking down the street. You can also put out the word on listservs and through social media. Like you can go ahead and make a Facebook event if you want. The most important thing is to just ask. Step 3 is to prepare your materials for the event. Make sure any signs are large enough and the writing is clear. It's always best to ensure the signs are legible from about 20 to 30 feet away. You may even want to write the question you'll be asking directly on the signs. This way, it's no surprise when you get to the microphone and ask them to vote no on any budget that goes to the EPA. They already, it's a quick, they already know what you're going to say, so they can respond quickly. You can even host a sign-making party with a group of people you've recruited before the event. It's a great way to, create some fun morale amongst you and new folks you're trying to work with. So the 4th step is to get positioned to ask a question when you arrive. For town halls, you should arrive early, like I said, with your group, so you can get seats in the front. And make sure you get signed up to ask a question during Q&A. This is at a town hall. Because they a lot of times do have a sign-up sheet if you want to ask a question. For town halls, for larger town halls, there might even be a lottery. So it's really important to sign everyone up to ask your pre-prepared question and to sign as many people up. That way you've got more of a chance of getting called. For smaller town halls, it's probably just a sign-up sheet. When you ask your question, make sure you hold on to the mic until you're finished. You may have a follow-up question to ask, so to hold on to it. And again, if the member is dodging your question, don't be afraid to hold on to that mic and ask the question again. And if there's no sign-up sheet and it's just hand raisers, really got to be assertive and try to be that first person raising their hand, so they'll call on you. So for other public events, you should always arrive early and grab space at the entrance. That's your best bet for getting some face time with your senator or your member of Congress. And it's best to get their attention, as they're walking in. And if you can't go, don't worry. Your sign will send a message. And you can always try waiting for them when they come out of the event to grab them then to ask your question. Politicians will often like to shake hands with people. And talk to people in and out of events. So position yourself towards the front of the line, towards the entrance, near where the news cameras are, and be ready to be assertive and ask your question. So the last thing I'll talk about is we talk a lot about trying to make these bird dogging actions go viral on social media. And as Gail mentioned, and you probably heard about lots of stories of constituents doing a really good job of holding their members of Congress and senators accountable during April recess. That story of the 10-year-old girl in Utah that Gail mentioned really sticks in my head as being such an inspiring example of just constituents taking their jobs as citizens very seriously and exercising their right, in the political process to hold their elected representatives accountable and sharing the story with the world on social media. It was a great moment. It went viral. So how do we do that? Basically, it's very simple. Social media has made it very easy to share videos. So it's just a matter of taking that video, recording yourself while you're asking your member of Congress. It's very simple. So to give you some tips, and again, we always like to say, you asking your member of Congress a question is powerful, but then sharing that moment, on social media where there's hundreds, thousands of people, that is exponentially more powerful, and it will increase the pressure on them, not just from you, but everyone else seeing this encounter and, this whole thing multiplying. So, just to give you some tips. First, you should think ahead of time of what you want to capture on video. If you're at a town hall, you should have your friend videotape you asking your question and then what your congressperson says in response. Make sure to get that whole conversation on video so you don't lose any good sound bites that your member of Congress might say when they're responding. If you're at a rally outside of an event, maybe you don't get to ask your question directly to your member of Congress, you can have your friend videotape you and maybe a couple people in the crowd chanting something as your member of Congress is walking by, and make sure to get the sign in the video clip. That way you can have your message very clearly shown, and then you can share that message with your member of Congress, again, on their Facebook and Twitter accounts, on social media. Second is, so basically just think about what kind of video you want to take, and then I'll go through, basically there's two kinds of videos you can do. You can take a Facebook Live video, or you can just take a regular video and post it later. So to go through Facebook Live, so Facebook Live is a video tool that's kind of new, but it's been around for maybe a year or so. And it's a tool on Facebook that allows you to share a live video on your Facebook page, and other people can watch and comment on your video as you're recording it. It's a very effective tool for getting videos to go viral, or it can be seen by a lot of people on the internet. So the steps for how to do Facebook Live are pretty simple. There's about 4 steps that you should think about, or you have to follow to do it. So first is just you have to download the Facebook app on your phone. You use Facebook Live on your phone. 2 is you'll look for a red camera button that says Live. Usually it's on your home screen, or when you're when you want to do a post on your profile page, you'll see this little red camera. So you tap that button, and then you'll want to just add like a short caption, saying some kind of message to your member of Congress using the hashtags Resistance Recess or August Recess, and then making sure to tag your senator or your congressperson's name. An example message would be like, Senator Collins, will you commit to voting against the EPA budget cuts, hashtag Resistance Recess, hashtag August Recess. So that's the caption that will go with the video. And then you would see an option to make your viewing option public, or maybe for your friends to view it. Make sure to make the viewing option public. That way everyone can see it. So it can have the farthest reach as possible, and make sure your congressperson can see it. So make it public. And then the last thing is right before you actually start recording, you just want to make sure your Facebook app has access to your camera and your microphone, and that'll come up automatically when you're about to start recording on your phone. So the last thing, is to just go ahead and click Go Live when you're ready to start recording. And once you go live, that means that people can literally see you like basically reporting live or just recording your video in real time, and they can actually comment on your video as you're doing it. And then after your video is done, you'll just click post, and then that way the video will stay live. It will stay on your Facebook and everyone can see it later. So that's Facebook Live. It's a great way of getting a lot of attention while you're actually in the moment, and it can help things go viral. And the other option is just to post a regular video just using your phone or a camera, and then uploading that video file to your Facebook or Twitter. You can do this on your computer or your phone. And again, you want to make sure you use the hashtags, hashtag resistance recess or hashtag August recess, and that basically the hashtags help you make sure that your posts are added to the online conversation that's happening about recess. And it'll get more attention, and then we can actually track your posts so we can then share the posts on our Facebook and Twitter. And again, also make sure to tag your member of Congress or your senator, looking up their names that they have on Facebook and Twitter on their website. Again, so all of these tips I just went over are going to be in our toolkit, so we won't give any more over that. And if you have more questions, you want us to walk you through the technical aspects more, we can do that one-on-one with your organizers. But basically, that's all the tips for having a social media worthy, viral worthy video, and it'll make your bird dog that much more impactful. So now I'm going to pass it over to Liz Kazel to talk about what to expect from us after this call.
Great. Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everybody. My name's Liz Kiesel. I'm another one of the organizers on our team. I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I work with the Southeast and Midwest states. So I'm going to tell you a little bit what you can expect from us at Friends of the Earth throughout this month. So after this call, we're actually going to send around our toolkit. That includes a how-to on bird dogging, how to use social media, as well as an outline for the different rapid response tactics. So it's going to, kind of walk you through what Jenny and Gail just talked about. We'll also be sending around a form that you should fill out if you're ready to join our rapid response team. So this is going to be a Google form, and once you fill this out, one of us will actually get in touch with you to help you plan out your different events. Again, you'll fill out that Google form that we're going to send out after this call. That's also how you'll get added to the rapid response email update list as well. Additionally, we're going to we actually hold right now regular activist calls by these different regions that actually give you a chance to connect with people in your state or in your general area of the country. You've heard Jenny, Gail, and I mention that we work with certain areas of the country, and what they are is we pull these calls together, and it's a great way to hear about what other people are doing, in their part of the country, and to also troubleshoot what's really happening on the ground. So we'll send information to each of you about those calls afterward, but we have a series of them coming out in the next week, and it'll be a great way to stay updated and to report back what you're working on during this recess. The last thing you'll get is a link to the Friends of the Earth Volunteers Facebook page and the Rapid Response Team Facebook page. So those are two separate pages. That's going to be in our follow-up email as well. The volunteer page is a general page. It's a really great way to connect with other volunteers around the country, see what they're doing, and just generally stay connected. But the rapid response page, this is going to be our hub for everyone who is doing rapid response throughout the August recess. It's where you're going to share your photos and your highlights from your bird dogging, where you're going to share ideas about things to do, maybe sign ideas. The most important thing that you can do is to fill out the Google form that I mentioned, but this rapid response Facebook group is going to be critical in helping to get other people sharing your photos and videos, excuse me. But again, the most important thing, fill out that Google form. Once you do that, one of us will follow up with you.